Good evening. I'd like to call to order the work session of the Town of Superior Board of Trustees for Monday, November 13th, 2017.
Thanks, Mayor. Just an item of note, Mark, I think, is going to try to make it to the regular meeting, and Chris is out of town, so he won't be here tonight. This is an item that's I scheduled that I know the board has mentioned that they'd like to have the opportunity to discuss, and it's with regard to the Boulder County Regional Partnership, what's referred to as the Regional Affordable Housing Plan. The Boulder County Partnership is asking counties and municipalities to pass a resolution supporting the plan. The partnership created a working group back in 2016 to develop regional strategies to address the need for affordable and attainable workforce housing. The board received a presentation on the plan back in June 12th of this year. And they've also presented the plan to the consortium, Boulder County Consortium of Cities, as well as cities throughout the county. I, along with Trustee Dozell and Hammerly and Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, attended the Regional Housing Partnership Affordable Housing Summit that was back on September 29th. Almost every municipality had some representation, including the county commissioners. I think all three were there at the summit. And it was a good collaborative meeting on the plan and what cities throughout the county can do to try to achieve some of these goals that are in the plan. Some of the items discussed at the summit included this 12% affordability goal that the county has set, as well as for working both independently and collaboratively to identify, implement some of the tools and strategies in the plan. The plan represents a regional coordinated effort to adopt the following 5 strategies. Establish a regional goal. The partnership recommends a goal of ensuring 12% of the housing inventory will be permanently affordable, low, moderate, and middle-income households by 2035. The goal requires securing up to 800 homes per year for the next 15 years, which would be achieved through a combination of acquisitions, redevelopment, and new construction. Bolster financial resources. This includes increasing local funding sources by $20 million per year to invest in community housing and attract additional funding from the private sector, state, and federal resources. This, I would anticipate, may include a November 2018 ballot, but we haven't seen any details on what that might look like. Secure land and redevelopment opportunities throughout the county. This includes land for housing is increasing in communities within Boulder County, securing land and prioritizing its use for community housing, which are key requirements to meeting the regional housing goal. Preserve affordability. Either through acquisition or new developments and permanent affordable housing. And then consider regulatory processes. Each individual municipality would consider either through their comprehensive plans or through development approvals, ways to secure attainable and affordable housing throughout the county. The Boulder County Commissioners and the cities of Longmont, Lafayette, Louisville, and Boulder have already approved the resolution that's included in your packet. The towns of Lyons and Netherland will have it on an upcoming agenda. And the partnership is asking and hoping that each municipality within the county will approve the resolution in some form by January, February of next year. The plan has also been included in your packet, and leave it open for discussion, not only on the plan itself and the goals that are in the plan, but also the resolution and the board's thoughts on the resolution and the language within it.
Okay, very good. Thanks for the introduction, Matt. And just as we do with all the work sessions, if time allows, we'll certainly allow for public comment. If anyone in the public would like to speak on this issue, we'll allow for that probably towards the end of the work session. If we do not end up having time for that, you're welcome to stay for the regular meeting, in which which case we have public comment at the beginning of the regular meeting. So with that, yeah, we'll just have open discussion on the board. I'd be interested in hearing, since I was not at the Housing Summit, I'd be kind of interested in hearing from those board members that were at the Housing Summit, just kind of get your thoughts on the event and the goals, and also I would like us to have some discussion about this resolution as well, and hopefully put it on an upcoming agenda for approval at a meeting in December or January. Who'd like to start? Sandy, you're closest.
Well, I think the place for us to start actually is until the recent increase in property tax, in real estate values. Frankly, it's been my attitude, and I expressed this at the meeting, that we have been the affordable housing in Superior. And because of the run-up in housing values, countywide and region-wide, I found this summit to really be an eye-opener in terms of things we can do here. But I'm curious about this 12% goal. I have a hard time figuring out how we can reach that. And so this was presented to the consortium at the last consortium meeting, and I asked the question, can we change the wording in the resolution if we choose to? Because I'd rather have the wording represent our viewpoint rather than us sort of glibly approving something somebody else has written for us, and they said absolutely we can change it. So as we go towards that resolution, I'd ask us to read it quite literally, and if there are goals in there that we don't think we can really in good faith work towards, then I think we need to articulate those and change the wording in such a manner that we can support what we say. So I just throw that all out there. 12% of the 1,400 properties alone in that town center, because the interesting thing is I go to the new construction. It's not here yet, so possibly we can influence that. But there are also ways to reclaim already constructed properties and work towards that. So anyway, with that, I'm just going to be quiet here for a minute, listen to other people's perspective.
Okay.
What I found interesting in the first breakout table that I was at is that there was a conversation really between Boulder City and Louisville. And Boulder City people were saying to Louisville, how can you create new employment opportunities at your Colorado Tech Center right over here without creating more affordable housing? Now, Louisville's doing a lot of things on affordable housing already. And the answer back, which was a great answer, was that we're creating opportunities for our existing residents to have jobs at the Colorado Technology Center. And then, a couple of us asked the question of Boulder, what are you doing to create affordable housing in Boulder for the jobs that you're bringing in? All the Google people and et cetera, and et cetera, et cetera. What are you doing with your limitation on growth? It's very, very difficult to actually build affordable housing in Boulder because of the market. The market, is for very expensive homes because the area is so limited. You can't expand at a greater than, it was a 1% or growth per year or something like that. So, and then they take out older homes, which maybe were affordable, and build very expensive new modern homes in those same locations on top of a site that had probably an affordable home. So that was our discussion is that it was really a discussion of how, when you have employment opportunities in your location, how do you provide for those workers to have affordable housing in your community. Not asking other communities outside of your community, but in Boulder County to be the housing, affordable housing for your workers. But how do you do that? Because I think back to the fact that, like Superior, our housing market is driven by the market. We have very limited land left, so that's a resource that they were asking through this draft resolution here, that we provide resources, including land, possibly to build affordable housing on. We don't have any land in the town of Superior that's available for affordable housing that an affordable housing builder would want to build on. Now, Boulder County Housing Authority could come in and do that, and there might be a couple of opportunities where we could look at that. I'm not opposed to that, but for us to take on a larger percentage of this 800, or a significant percentage of this 800 homes per year, in order to help out other communities, and that's what this resolution also says, is that we're all come together and we combine resources and we work for the good of all. And I'm not opposed to that either. I just think that we don't have any land left here. We have market conditions where builders want to come in and build what would not be considered affordable housing. And we can't go back now and tell people that have already got their plans in place, like the town center, that they must, because we just can't tell them that they have to build affordable housing. If they want to, they can, but I don't know why they would when they can sell it for $500,000 to $800,000 a home. So we have constraints that we don't have any land to offer up or to throw into this pot. We don't have any way to incentivize. And what they're really asking for then is, if we participate in this, is that we're, again, offering up all of the property valuations in the town of Superior to fund a tax that will provide affordable housing somewhere else for somebody in Boulder County. And I don't know if that's in the best interest of Superior. Now, it's in the best interest of us as a community, a member of a community, but we have to think about that. Would that be what our residents would want to do? And if we put it up on a ballot for Superior, it wouldn't be just for Superior, it'd be for all of Boulder County. And could Superior actually drive that vote in a way that makes sense for them? And that's a concern I have too, is if it becomes a Boulder County ballot issue and the town of Superior says no, who votes from here, we may not prevail, our residents may not prevail, because the rest of Boulder County may make it up and get the majority of that vote. Does that make sense? And so I have a concern that we're out there saying that we would participate in something that we're not sure at this time whether the residents of Superior would be interested in spending their tax dollars or contributing their tax dollars to put affordable housing somewhere else in Boulder County.
Okay, Kevin?
Thanks. So, evening, everybody. So, a couple things. I think they presented this, I think I read, to 30 or 35 different stakeholder groups, and I was on the receiving end of the presentation 3 times, although not the final presentation. And so maybe something changed between the presentation that I had, but this isn't a quota system. This isn't every community must pony up X amount of land or X percentage of new development. This is a countywide initiative, and there's absolute acknowledgement within the Regional Housing Partnership Working Group that some existing cities, ours was specifically, I was in that initial Boulder County Consortium of cities where this was presented, and we acknowledge that we don't have much to offer in terms of land or available housing and new construction, and they acknowledge that. So unless something's changed, so I want to maybe ask 2 questions. Number one, has anything changed? Because I don't see this as a community or town goal. I see it as a countywide goal.
Right. The countywide goal, though, is the ultimate culmination of this would be put out a county ballot issue to raise taxes in some way to provide affordable housing. And that's my concern. I agree with what you said, and we all acknowledge that. We don't have space
Right.
to offer up or the ability to provide any other type of resources within Superior. But what we do have is a lot of property valuation. And that it tends to be what people love to see, is a way to tax the valuation here in the town of Superior for something else. Now, that makes it sound like I'm not interested in this. I am interested in figuring out how to create applicable and appropriate affordable housing. And if we can figure it out in Superior, we should do that. But I don't like the way this resolution is written. It drives us down to that we're agreeing that ultimately we're going to ask for a tax.
So, right, so a couple more comments, thank you. First, we're not agreeing to any tax. Anything would obviously have to go to the ballot, right? So there's tonight we're not discussing whether or not this group is supportive of a tax or not supportive of a tax, and any increase in tax is clearly going to be a ballot measure. Second, this is sort of exactly the type of thing that I like, where you've created this regional housing partner working group where you provide them the opportunity to go out and talk to stakeholders and talk to business leaders and talk to individual committees. And this report is a result of engaging those different stakeholders. And there are a set of recommendations. And they acknowledge that 12% is a bit arbitrary. 10% felt too low, 15% felt too high, and so they picked a 12% number. So I think 12% is really going to be attainable by, I think, 2035 was the goal. 2030, 2035. Probably not. But it's important, and the problem is getting worse year over year because our housing is getting more expensive, and that has downstream impacts around traffic because people are commuting into Boulder and into Superior and into neighboring communities from other communities. So this is a set of recommendations. I'm personally supportive of tweaking the resolution a bit. There's some language in there talking about a housing crisis. That's a word that I don't love. I'm not sure there's a crisis at this point. It's acknowledgement that there is a shortage of affordable housing, and I think most people would acknowledge that. And they recommend 3 or 4 strategies for a county to consider to address that shortage. And I'm personally supportive of the working group. I think they did an excellent job. I'd love to see us agree on a resolution. I think it's important. But we've talked about resolutions in the past, and they don't necessarily have a tremendous amount of teeth. Force or effect, and so I'd like there to be a resolution for us to throw our support behind the great work that the working group did. I just think we may need a little bit of cleanup on some of the language, but directionally, I wouldn't want to tweak any of the nuances of their report like the 12%, because I'm, good on you for engaging the community and coming up with a number. So thanks.
And I just want to add a comment to that.
Okay.
And I am with you on that. The report was good. Even the workshop that we went to was really good. What I want to be real about and not naive about is that the ultimate goal here of this is to get a county-wide tax that will be used to provide affordable housing. And we, I think, owe it to our residents to understand what that impact might be to them so they can make a good decision on that ballot issue that comes. I mean, even you said that, Matt, that most likely next year there might be a ballot issue on this. And the other thing is I also think we shouldn't be naive enough to think that we will flow along with what Boulder votes, realistically. We can't change. If Boulder decides as a city, the preponderance or the majority of the people that they want this tax, it's going to become a countywide tax. And so I think we need to recognize that we may, what is our position? Or would we be willing to support, as it says here, and stand behind a tax? And I know we don't have to decide this tonight, but my concern is that by signing the resolution the way it's written here, and I've got many notes on mine too, I agree with you, some of these words about crises and things like that get me a little bit worried, but we need to think this through a little bit. What is it that we in Superior are saying that we're willing to do to participate in helping to solve an affordable housing dilemma that is in the county?
Okay. So I'll give some of my thoughts. I think in my mind, where our priorities should be is affordable housing for seniors, because it's a shame when someone grows up in a community, lives in a community their whole life, and all of a sudden they find themselves priced out of it for various reasons. So that is an issue. And having toured the facility over at Josephine Commons, I think that works very well. It's a great community, and I think a smaller version of that would be a great asset to this community. So that's number one. Number two is, I think we have a responsibility for housing for employees. We've got a lot of employment here in Superior at various levels. We've got high-paying jobs. We've got entry-level jobs. And I think we've got adequate housing for the high-paying jobs, but for the entry-level jobs, we don't have a lot of housing options here, and people have to drive a long way to find that housing. And I think each community has that responsibility. Now, what does that look like? That's for us to figure out. I will push back a little bit on the comment about we don't have any land. We do have land. The choice is, what do we do with that land? We've got a big map that I go over in many presentations, areas available for development. I mean, it's either undeveloped land or it's land that maybe it's up for redevelopment in one form or another. But we do have land. We don't have much. We're 4 square miles, and we've got little pockets here and there. So we're not going to be able to do anything on the scale that a lot of our neighboring communities are, but we do have land, and it's going to be our choice of what we put there. And so I think the key question is, does this board have an appetite for doing any of the above? And I personally do. I don't, but I think that's really where the board needs to decide is, do we have an appetite for doing anything? And if we do, then I think we do need to look at some projects that come forward, they're wanting the highest and best and the most profit out of those projects, and we've got limited amounts of control on that. But other projects, they might be interested in some kind of dialogue about what can we do in partnership with you, Superior, and the county to do something. We've had that discussion with RTD about the RTD site. That hasn't come together, but that's an example of some discussions that could continue. Sandy?
Oftentimes, the devil is in the details, and I think we're all recognizing that the resolution, everybody knows how I feel about resolutions. But the devil really is in the details of what they want various communities to do. There are certain things that were in their strategies when you started digging down that I went, oh, okay, well, that's kind of intriguing. One of their recommendations under the preserve affordability was that when developers come to a community and ask for a variance in current zoning to increase density, that the jurisdiction require that any increase in density be affordable housing. I said, okay, I might be more open to increased density if it helps solve the issue of affordable housing. We've spoken a number of times to some of the folks who would like to invest in our community. Superior Town Center's out of this because they're already, but we have people who have not presented plans to us that we could very easily say, okay, if you're going to increase the density, then rather than contribute to the higher cost in this community, we need you to commit to some more affordable housing. One of the other things that it talked about was adopting what was called a first right of refusal ordinance, where governmental entities could come in and purchase properties at market rate that could then be used for affordable housing. Those are the kinds of things that I am at least open to exploring, particularly since most people know I don't like it when we increase density over what's on zoning. However, if it helps solve a problem in our community, then I might be a little bit more open to it, as opposed to developments that are just going to be expensive and outrageous, because we've already heard a number of times that the communities that are being built are going to be affordable, and they're not even remotely close. Saddlebrook and the Summit at Rock Creek remain the affordable housing in Superior. And I haven't seen a single proposal come across to us that's going to not be more expensive than what we've got. So the 12%, I don't have a problem with it, as long as that's not saying, and I'm not 100% sure that that's the case, that doesn't mean that Superior's got to come up with. Now, you can go ahead and count the Summit and the Saddlebrook and Summit as part of that 12%, because we're going to remain more cost effective. So I agree with Kevin's comments about we need to tweak the language in what we adopt. It's not a crisis. I mean, we've got a shortage. I don't know how we get there in the next 20 minutes or 10 minutes, but I would not support voting yes on this resolution as currently worded. But I've been outvoted before, so that's okay.
But there is no vote tonight.
Yeah, I'm just saying I would not support it as written.
Okay. Sandy.
Shortly after the summit, the editorial writer Dave Krieger in the Boulder Daily Camera wrote what I thought was a very articulate piece, that affordable housing always comes down to land acquisition. If a government wisely purchases land, then you're in control of what you can put on that land, right? And so he said we cannot, the sort of gist of what he was saying is we as communities can't be sitting here. This was after the Mayhofer property just closed, and Boulder County put however many millions towards it, and Louisville put however many millions towards it off 42, right, in Louisville. And they said instead of taking that out of production with that expenditure of money, if you're serious about affordable housing, perhaps that should have been acquired with the intent to build affordable housing on it. Because the more you take out of production entirely, where are you going to come up with land to do this? So at the Consortium of Cities meeting, it was at Louisville Library with the county commissioner there and a bunch of the county staff, et cetera, I threw this out there. And I said, when is enough open space enough? And when do you start reprioritizing? Because perhaps you can't have both of these. Not well received at all. Not well received, but I do think Dave Krieger is on to something, that you cannot permanently be taking from our limited amount of acres, permanently taking it out of production, and then, oh, by the way, saying we also need to find land to put affordable housing on. So just something to think about. I'm not saying to build on stuff we've already taken out of production, but perhaps we should think more carefully about the next time we face that decision.
Okay. Rita.
And that really what it gets down to is that, again, we're, as the mayor said, 4 square miles. And we may have pockets, but we don't really have anything significant to build on. And I think the one still very viable possibility for affordable rental property is on the RTD side, if we can get somebody to come in and do that with Boulder County Housing Authority. And, you know, and the mayor and I have worked on that, and we haven't got a builder yet that is willing to, or has a financial wherewithal to go forward with that project. But, you know, we have to be real. We don't have any other places left in Superior. Now, when we talk about the other opportunities that came up at that summit, which is to buy existing properties and turn them into affordable housing, I think that's a good idea if you're buying a house, if the government, local government has the authority or the wherewithal to do that, and rent it out or provide it as a county rental property. But buying of houses, existing product, and then turning into a affordable house that's owned by someone is not a good deal, because, you know, I sent you all the article by, about the accidental racism in Boulder, by telling someone that you could buy for this, but you can only sell it for 10% more. You can't increase the value like everybody else can. So I think that would be a bad idea. But I was intrigued, like Sandy Hammerly, about the idea of possibly, if we wanted to identify more housing that's affordable, and it would be managed by, like, Boulder County Housing Authority, and they rented it out as but again, you know, there's concerns about that too, about people that bought into a community where everyone owned the houses on their street, and all of a sudden now we have more rental property that's considered affordable. There would be some concerns about that. We even have concerns today about multiple homes being owned by people and renting them out, you know, and what that does to a neighborhood or a street. So there's a lot of things to talk about here. I don't want to be perceived as being against finding solutions to affordable housing, but I think we need to do it in a way that makes sense for Superior and not be driven by or follow along with what Boulder and Boulder County want to do.
An example, perhaps, because it's so hard to get your head around some of this. An example of what you're talking about, Rita, that comes to mind is that Boulder Community Hospital site, where City of Boulder bought that for, what, $40 million or something, now has to figure out what to do with it, right? And you think of, well, if you don't tear it all down and you just look at hospital rooms possibly being repurposed into some sort of living arrangement, you know, there are some, you know, that's a property they're going to probably get significant affordable housing out of, I suspect. But it is hard to find the analogy here in Superior. An annoyance was when we approved Coal Creek Crossing, the intent was to diversify our housing prices with that property.
We did.
And it's interesting because it was intended to be empty nester, and then weirdly they said single parents with children. And I thought, what, really? Empty nester with neighbors of single parents with children. It sort of seemed a little bit at odds. But the point was it was supposed to be in like that 400 to 550 price range. And so I've asked this question before, why can we as a community, when we approve housing development that's intended to fall in a certain price range, and then the market does its little number on it, and all of a sudden it's up to 750, 800 million, what can we do? And obviously there are things we can do if we want to go down that route of capping and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, it takes political will.
So this to me almost feels like the end of the conversation is going to be, you know what we need, because we don't have all the answers, we need a task force. And that's what this deliverable, this work product is. It's the outcome of a task force, and it's presenting multiple strategies. And yes, bolstering the financial resources and a possible tax increase is one. But there are other strategies, there's 4 or 5 other strategies that they propose. And I don't necessarily want to get into the details of what is the right answer for our town, because I don't think we certainly won't figure that out tonight, and we probably won't figure it out in the next year or two, because there is a tremendous amount of work that's required. And when we go over our goals, I don't see this as one of our top 4 or 5 goals, and this isn't, I personally don't think it should be one. I like that the county and the task force took this on. And I think us not throwing the support, and this isn't the voice of the task force, this is the culmination of the work, again, of talking to the elected officials and the business leaders and nonprofit groups and appointed officials. And I think it's important for us, probably not tonight, but within a meeting or two, to find the right words, to thank them and throw our support behind their body of recommendations. Second, I am a little, if people from the working group are watching us this evening, and they may be after the fact, they may think, gosh, I wish I knew that. I wish I got that feedback when we were presenting, because they came to us and they presented. And I feel like the feedback we're discussing amongst ourselves wasn't necessarily shared within the working group, because it would have been reflected in the work product. And so I just think it's kind of a lesson for us. I think this is a great, healthy discussion. I just wish we had this discussion saying directly to the work group, there are a few of us that aren't sure how we as a community could help, as a town could help, and we want to make sure that by supporting you, it's not committing us to a set-aside or a minimum. It's not necessarily supporting the tax. Again, there are other strategies. So those are my couple comments. Number one, I just want to be careful that it feels like we're about to say we should get a task force, and we already have one. And second, I wish we had this conversation when the task force was here.
Okay, Rita.
We did. I've said these same things every time I've been in consortium of city meetings or that night. We're small, we don't have land, we don't have taxes, we don't have resources. Well, we'll do whatever we can working with Boulder County and other developers that are interested in creating opportunities that are affordable within their planned development. So we have. Everyone recognizes, and in the past, over the years, I know Matt's been around long enough to know this. It was before I was on the board even. There's been a lot of discussions about affordable housing in Superior, and Boulder County Housing has come many times and asked about it, and how do we work it. We've told them the constraints that we have within the town of Superior. So I don't think we need a task force. I do think it's okay if we can modify, and I know we can, the resolution to say, we're definitely in support of finding affordable housing and working that. But I don't think that we should say that we are automatically in favor of creating a new tax or all these. We want to work collectively and do what we can in our town rather than saying, okay, we'll just buy into whatever Boulder County and Boulder wants to do. That's my concern. I don't want to stop working on trying to get affordable housing, particularly like Clint and Sandy, you've said this before too, for seniors. But I think we need to be real. We don't have a lot of resources, and we virtually don't have any land left, that a developer is going to be willing to provide affordable housing on. So if we can craft something that supports the work, and I think the work was really good, and I thought the summit that we went to was very good as well. But it was interesting to hear the dynamics amongst the communities talking about what are you doing for your working group that needs affordable housing, and what have you done, and all of that. And we've been pretty upfront about we have limited availability of resources.
Okay, so for the resolution, why don't we have those that have comments and changes, maybe circulate them to Matt, and he can try to incorporate those the best he can, and let's try to work out a draft that is, incorporates as much of our comments as possible, and because I do think it's important for us to be a part of the bigger community and show that we're at least engaged to the point to pass a resolution. What we do beyond that is, I agree, it's going to be complex, and
There is a next step, though, that emerged from my group. I sat with a really interesting group of people. Frank Alexander, who I think chaired this working group, was at my table. And he's a can-do person, I have to tell you. And the new mayor of Longmont, Brian Bagley, is that his name?
yes.
And a young man who I think he was also from Longmont, with very enthusiastic. And then at the consortium meeting at Louisville Public Library was Christine, the mayor of Lafayette. And I have to say, when you're sitting around these can-do people about this, it is a solvable issue. It isn't intractable, and it can be solved on a county-wide basis. So that a step that came out of mine was there are any host of different tools out there by which to try to contribute to the solution here. And so I think to invite Frank Alexander back, either in front of the board or in front of, several people on this board who are interested in working particularly on this issue, I think he's a good place to start with because he can dissect the problem down into manageable chunks. So I think he's the person to start having this conversation with, because I said at the table, I came in here saying there's nothing we can do, and I'm leaving here going, yeah, there are things we can do. So let's invite some of these creative thinkers into the equation as far as what we can contribute. Speaking of creative thinker, Matt, I'm interested in hearing Matt's opinion. You've been around for now 20 years with the town. How do you perceive this issue?
Well, from a town perspective, I think I would agree that as far as land availability, there's limited opportunities, although I think there are opportunities if the board's willing to consider proposals if they come forward. I think the Boulder County Housing Authority has done a couple of really, I think, nice projects in Lafayette and Louisville where they've come in and purchased the property, usually under 15 acres, and built a number of usually over 200 units for seniors and families. And I think there's opportunities in town where a project like that could occur. As far as I really do think in the end there'll be a ballot measure in November of 2018. I don't know what what they'll be asking for, but I think the summit and a lot of this collaboration, that's the ultimate goal, because to fund that many number of new affordable housing units is going to be difficult without some funding source. The city of Longmont on their own has put away, I think, $1 million for affordable housing, but they feel like they're doing more than other cities, and they're looking for other cities to contribute financially as well. So, but I think our biggest opportunity for affordable housing in town is through some property within town that we partner with the Boulder County Housing Authority on.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? We do have a board interview of a advisory committee applicant, so we'll need to get to that here shortly, but to get any final comments from the board on this. We've got a few minutes if you want to do public comment. If anybody in the public like to comment on this, just give a little wave and feel free to come up and state your name and address, and appreciate hearing any comments.
Richard Kupner, 411 West Charles Street, Superior. Oh, I'm glad to see that you guys are all kind of on the same page about some affordable living. The Kupner family has several properties in this town, and it's affordable living for the people we have there. We have about 25 families that are what you says, they're not, they don't make a lot of money. And it's what we do, we work with them. We are affordable housing. And, I see this northwest suburban Superior area, and basically you've targeted some of the areas that could become affordable housing. You go change the zoning on that, and guess what's going to happen? It's going to develop single family, same thing that happened at Coal Creek Crossing. It's going to be affordable to people that make a lot of money. And it's going to put about 25 or 30 people that are elderly people out on the street that we have. Now, I don't want to see that. I want to see something that is affordable, that people can pay $600, $700 a month and live, not $1,500 to $2,000. Because being a waitress or somebody working at PetSmart or that, those people don't make that kind of money. The upper management does, that can pay $1,500 to $2,000. But I'm really scared to see what's going on with this thing with this town survey and that about the affordable living, because I think it's going to push it all out, and it's going to happen real fast. And it's going to happen right on you guys' watch, because you go start changing the zoning, I'll guarantee you're going to see it happen. These lots are going to go to single family. That's fine. But it won't be no more affordable housing in the original town. And I hope that I see that you all are concerned about affordable living. Because there's only 20 people out of 12,000 people, 13,000 people, 20 families. That's not very many in this town that has affordable living. So I'm glad to see that you're looking at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Okay. Any final thoughts from the board, comments from the board?
I think the one comment I would make is when I made the comment about the Summit and Saddlebrook being affordable housing, I mean that. We truly are. And I would not support us endorsing that the county or anyone come in and start buying the units of the residents of, we're already the most economical. And so to in any way affect property values, I mean, if those units are sold, they are sold at market value. And then if they're rental properties, that's fine. But we already have enough issues in those two communities that they are becoming more and more rental properties, because wealthy people in the community are buying the houses as investments and then they're renting them out. So, my guess is that the Summit and Saddlebrook are already affordable housing. They're probably in the count as it is now, because people can afford to live there. So I do have to protect our multifamily communities. I ran for this board so that I could speak on behalf of the residents of those types of units, and we are very different. And, we can't become something different to solve a problem for the city. We are what we are.
Okay, thank you. All right, Rita?
That brings up a good question from my perspective, is that what does Boulder County Housing Authority consider, how many homes do they consider are affordable in Superior? I don't expect the answer right now. I think we should look at that and see, because if you're looking just at the average price per home in Superior, all of Superior would be considered unaffordable.
There's a map in here that has us basically with none.
With none, I know.
Yeah.
And so when that I remember at that day at the summit even, we said, wait a second, if you're looking at just the average value per home in Superior, then none are.
That's
There's a pretty
So we just need
Yeah,
to,
we
I
have the
would like
data.
to see.
They did I think I even have it in my file.
Okay.
So they did a nice job providing that data. Now, it's not perfect because they didn't pull tax records and actual homes sold. It's a bit of a survey, but there is some science behind it. And I had the same observation when I saw how they put the data on a grid. I thought that doesn't quite seem right. But,
Right.
But there's some additional detail.
So if we have we need more complete data in order to know what we're presenting and what we're actually. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good discussion. Certainly not over, but over for now. So thank you all. And we'll go on to our advisory committee applicant.
Thank you. We have one vacancy on the Youth Leadership Council, and we received an application for that vacancy. Jae Young Shim is here tonight. If you want to come up and come to the podium and just introduce yourself. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Jae-Young Shim. I live on 1692 El Dorado Drive, and I'm a junior at Fairview High School. I am interested in becoming a member of the Superior Youth Leadership Council because I would love for a chance to give back to the community that I grew up in, and have a voice towards the youth life in Superior. I believe I can be a valuable member to this council because I am open-minded, collaborative, and involved in organizations such as the Children's Hospital Club, Interact Club, Reading Buddies program at the Louisville Public Library, and Science National Honor Society. Thank you so much for your time and for considering me to be a part of the Superior Youth Leadership Council.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your interest in it as well, and offer an opportunity for any of the board members to ask you any questions if they have any.
I'll start. If you were named to this committee and you served as for the period until you go off to college or whatever you're going to do after high school, what would you have accomplished in the year and a half that you would be on the committee? What would you have accomplished that made you feel like you had been a successful participant on the committee?
I think I would most likely want to know that I made a difference in my community and I did something hands-on that I know I helped someone else. And personally, I would like to work with different schools around Superior. I went to El Dorado K-8, and I would like to, if I could, I would like to work with them and see if we could do different projects or something like that.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Kevin.
Thank you for your interest. You really impressive resume, and thank you for your previous support to the community. Really very much appreciated. I get your interest in working with younger kids, and I think that's great. One of the question for you, not to put you on the spot too much, one of the consistent pieces of feedback we get is there's nothing for kids your age, young adults, to do in town. It's something we struggle with. We don't have a community center. We don't have a library. What ideas might you have to work with the Superior Youth Leadership Council to help find somethings for young adults your age?
I think if we were to have, I guess, little like sessions where we could have people my age come and like express their like ideas or concerns, and as a council we could listen to some of those considerations and see if we could make any changes or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Well, again, we appreciate your interest, and we'll be acting on this later on tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe I'm correct in saying that. Are we acting on this tonight or a future meeting? Future meeting. Okay. So next meeting. So thank you. All right. We'll adjourn the work session and be back at 7 unless there's anything else for the work session. Okay. All right. Be back at 7. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Town of Superior Board of Trustees for Monday, November 13th, 2017. Could we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Phyllis. Can we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Clint Folsom.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sandy Pennington.
Here.
Trustees Rita Dozell.
Here.
Sandy Hemmerly.
Here.
Chris Hansen. Mark Lasis. Kevin Ryan.
Here.
Town Manager Matt Bagley.
Here.
Town Attorney Jeff Parker. Town Clerk Phyllis Harden here.
Thank you. Next is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda that board members would like to suggest, or I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda?
I so move.
Okay. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, second by Trustee Dozal. All those in favor? It passes unanimous. Thank you. All right, we're on to reports, questions, and issues. Who would like to start?
No, I have no comment, no issue, no report.
Okay. Rita.
First thing I'd like to say is thank you to the mayor for doing a great presentation at the legislators tour stop at Brunelleschi's on November 1st. I went to that, and it was great fun to see those people there and to have them hear your presentation. You did a great job. Also on November 1st, I went to Dr. Cog Denver Regional Council of Government work session regarding allocation of regional and sub-regional funds for the next transportation improvement projects, which will come early next year, where they'll ask for the projects to be funded in the following 3-year cycle. November 3rd, attended the first Friday coffee, and we had several residents there, and we talked mainly about more state issues than specific town issues. It was kind of a different kind of a day. We were talking with Representative Gardner's, or Senator Gardner's representative, Ryan, and it was interesting to listen to the various different conversations going on. November 11th, this past Saturday, I attended the first annual Veterans Day Remembrance at the Veterans Memorial in Asty Park, read the proclamation to the group that was there. Thank you to Gladys Forshee for arranging this and for going out and collecting donated cookies from various Superior businesses. It was great. We had a lot of cookies. We had more cookies than we probably deserved, but everybody got to take home cookies, and it was great because she'd go and ask for 2 dozen, and then they'd give her 3 or 4 dozen cookies. You know, everybody was giving her cookies. And about 30 people attended. We had veterans, we had Boy Scouts, we had residents, we had Rocky Mountain Metro firefighters, we had several happy dogs that got cookies as well, and it was a great day. Sunshine was out, and it was a good day of remembrance. So hopefully each year will get bigger and better. It was really good. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandy?
We all were at this, and it's been so long since the last meeting. None of us, I believe, has mentioned a Northwest sub-area plan. It was 2 evenings, I think October 24th and 25th, and I want to thank the Planning Commission for holding those, and I actually look forward to what they determine to be the next steps in this process. Our evening actually ended early because they did not engage the group in conversation. Instead, we did the clicker thing, which was fun, I have to say, because you could see the results up on the screen immediately. But the meeting ended up, I think, at about 7:15 when it was to go to 8. But I understand the next night, and Sandy can report on this, that they actually engaged in conversation and had a lively discussion. So anyway, thanks to Planning Commission for taking that initiative under their wing, and let's see what we can do with it. I actually have had a lot of meetings. I'm just going to whip through them without saying. CAPS had a meeting on October 26th, Rocky Flat Stewardship Council on October 30, in which we selected the community members that are on that. The 10 municipal governments automatically have alternate delegate and an alternate on it, and then there are 4 additional seats. And I have to say I was quite disappointed that when given the choice between a individual from the community who clearly is concerned about the safety versus one who is clearly convinced it's safe, that the choice was made for the person who is clearly convinced it's safe. And not that they both won't be quite good representatives on there, but the person who is concerned and led the Metro State study of rare cancers received 1 vote from all of the attendants in who had a vote, and I thought that was unfortunate, because I actually believe that you want to hear from people who disagree with you, so you can come up with a good decision. And I don't think that happened at that particular meeting. Legislator tour attended with Rita, the thing you put together, and that was great. First Fridays, thank you, Rita. And then 2 meetings last Wednesday. Open Space Advisory Committee, I sub for Mark. And I have to say, it was like a 3-hour meeting. And I think we on the board are responsible for that, because they're sort of in a quandary now as to what they can and can't do, and they've lost a little mojo, and it was somewhat painful as they try to rebuild their confidence. So I don't think we did this committee any favors, but they're got their noses to the grindstone and they're trying to get on with things. But and to their credit, they stayed an extra hour to try to work through it all. So they'll do it. And then in the morning was the Joint Issues Committee with Louisville, and that is such a great committee. We went topic. They had just approved the day before the broadband issue, not by the overwhelming amount we did, I think in the 80s somewhere. And Matt, please weigh in on particular things there, but great dialogue between the two communities, and only good things come from dialogue. So big supporter of that group.
I guess it's me. I attended the ProStack meeting on October 18th, and I will just wanted to call everybody's attention to the fact that I had referenced in the last meeting that you didn't have the notes yet from their meeting, but they did recommend some potential sites for pickleball. And so as we move forward with considering the 2018 budget, I would encourage you to look at their notes just so you have a better sense of some of the possibilities there. I attended both of the Northwest Superior sub-area plan meetings. The first meeting was very good, but the second one was even more exciting because we had, I think we probably had, well, this room was full and they were out in the hall, and so obviously it's closer to the folks who live in the Northwest sub-area, but it was very well representative. I wanted to thank the residents who attended both meetings. Particularly, I wanted to point out that I thought Stephen Williams did a great job because he got a bunch of questions lobbed at him at various times that he did a great job, and I just wanted to commend him. The representative from Clarion Associates, who was our contract staffer on that, did a great job. I was almost shocked at how knowledgeable she was just about things that had gone on in the town of Superior, and so I was really impressed with that. I did follow up with Stephen today, and I just said, how many surveys have we gotten back? And as of the close of surveys, we'd gotten close to 500 back,
Wow.
Which is, I was shocked that it was that many. But we have gotten about 500. There were, I think, 460 online and then another 40 that were delivered in paper. So I look forward to hearing what they learned from those surveys. I attended the library board meeting on November 9th, and earlier that day met with Library Director Beth Barrett and a couple of her staff folks talking about how could the library more effectively engage with Superior residents. And following up on one of our earlier discussions, I did encourage them very strongly to consider having some sort of activity in the town of Superior at minimum on a quarterly basis, and they said they would go back and think about that and try and come up with some ideas. I said, you know, we got great space over at the sports stable that we could use for those activities, and we'd like to see them look into that. One of the other things that came up during the discussion was, and I've talked to Matt about it, and he said that we could certainly make it happen. I'd like to see library staff come and present to the board at least once, maybe a couple of times a year, on the things that are going on at the library. I mean, they have some amazing research tools over there that we could be taking advantage of that might be of a resource. I know the Chamber does a lot of work with some of those activities, but I really think we need to develop a closer relationship with the library. It's not just something we send money to, but how can we really get to know more about the library services here in town, and we can become more informed as board members. There were a few other things that I've been talking to Matt about, and we're going to continue to try and look into that. One of which was maybe on a monthly or every other month basis, just sending out on the email blast what are some of the activities that are coming up at the library, because not everybody subscribes to the library mailing list. So, you know, we as Superior residents pay to have the library be a part of us. And I think we should look on the library as no different than the programs that are provided by the Parks and Rec Department on Coyotes or whatever. We really should be promoting more actively what's going on at the library, because there's services there that are not just books and that can be of service to not only our young kids but older folks and our businesses also, which deserve a lot of support. So hopefully we'll be moving forward with some more of those. And thank you, Matt, for being open to the ideas.
Okay, thanks, Sandy. All right, on Wednesday, the 1st of November, as Rita and Sandy noted, we were hosts to Representative Matt Gray. Welcome, Mark. And we were hosts to Representative Matt Gray and a group he was with called Base Camp. This was a touring group of newer legislators and business leaders from around the state, and they get them all on a tour bus, and they go around the different legislators' districts. And Representative Gray contacted me a couple of weeks back and said, hey, would you mind if we come through Superior and show us what you've got? And I said, of course, we'd love to. And while you're at it, why don't you stop and have lunch here? The staff at Brunelleschi's is kind of carved out a nice niche of doing midday event space where they can provide a good buffet lunch at a reasonable price, and you can use their TVs for presentations. So we did a nice presentation on a little bit of history about Superior, development activity, and things that are going on regionally. So it was a nice opportunity to kind of introduce Superior to some people that had not been to town before, and most of them had not been. And so it was a good event. And the following day had a mayors and commissioners meeting here at Town Hall. Wanted to acknowledge that we've got a couple of new residents in downtown Superior now. Some certificates of occupancy have been issued, and we've got some new residents there. So welcome, new residents of downtown Superior. And I look forward to, I've been working with Heather, and we're going to get the Chamber's been great at delivering new resident packets to all new residents, relocations and so on for years. And I just wanted to make sure that our new residents of downtown Superior were recognized. So we're going to be doing that here soon. Make sure people have on their calendar for December 2nd. We've got two of our great holiday events happening on the same afternoon, kind of back to back. 2:30 to 4, Skate with Santa at the Sports Stable. And 3:30 to 5:30 is Asti Park Town Count the Light events. We bring out the fire truck, have turn on the lights for the tree, and the historic museum is open, so the historical commission will be involved. We have the grills going. Kids can roast s'mores, adults can roast s'mores. It's a great time. Hot cocoa, and always a great time. So two great back-to-back events. December 2nd. Any other announcements or activities? Yes, Mark.
No announcements.
No announcements.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Matt.
As Mayor Pro Tem Pennington mentioned, the Joint Issues Committee discussed a number of topics, but one of them was the Campus Drive 88th Street designs, preliminary designs and cost estimates. Those have been completed by the consultant. So at the December 11th work session, we'll have that start at 5:30, and we'll give the board an opportunity to review those and have discussions and ask questions, because the next step in this process will be to determine what, if anything, we want to submit to Dr. Cog for the TIP application. You'll need to have your discussion. Then we need to get together with the city of Louisville and determine jointly what we want to submit. So that'll be the December 11th meeting. And then at the next meeting, we only have 2 meetings left this year. We'll have the work session starting at 5:30. We'll talk about indoor recreation space and opportunities there, and show you some preliminary designs, have some cost estimates, and how the financing might work for the one at the sports stable. So we'll have that at the next meeting on the 27th. I think that's it.
Okay. Jeff, anything? All right. And Phyllis?
No, I don't have
Okay.
anything.
Very good. All right, we're on now to public comment. Anyone in the public like to make any comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations. Heather Craycraft, Superior Chamber update. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Board of Trustees. 2 items I just wanted to make sure you were aware of. Small Business Saturday is coming up on November 25th, so that would be following Thanksgiving, following Black Friday. That Saturday, the 25th of November, is what has been most recently called Small Business Saturday. It is championed by American Express, but it is more about shopping at our local stores, about celebrating and sharing the small businesses that are part of our lives. So don't forget about our corner stores, food trucks, online boutiques, all of those small business owners that are out there. So the Chamber is doing a concerted effort to visit whether they be a service-oriented business in town or a local restaurant or small shop, which we do have a few. So we're going to make sure they are aware of that Small Business Saturday on the 25th. And then the mayor did bring up our Skate with Santa event that we are very excited to be teaming up with the town, kind of doing back-to-back. So as you exit the sports stable from our skating event where we have booked Santa, he's going to make an extra trip into Superior and spend the afternoon with us. Dixon Orthodontics has teamed up with us on this event, so local business owner, very excited to make this happen. When you leave sports stable, we'll be handing you a special ticket to come on over to Asti Park and be part of the festivities for Count the Lights. So we're really trying to encourage the community to be part of both. So we look forward to that day, and that's what's going on right now. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Before you leave, since you're standing there? Would, I didn't even realize that the Chamber did the new resident packets until we were talking about it in the, at a work session.
Yes.
And would if the library were to put, okay, thank you.
Yes, I'll.
I just think it would be a great way to let new residents know
Yes.
that they can get library cards. So
Absolutely.
Okay, I
Yeah.
will make
Any
sure
sort
Beth
of
gets in
information.
touch with you.
We're averaging this year. We'll probably be close to about 400 new residents delivered
Okay.
over a 12-month period, and we work closely with the town staff. They provide us a flash drive with those details for the residents, but obviously anything the library, even one of their fantastic flyers that talks about all the services that they
Okay.
give us, and we use that in the rooftop drop. We can definitely transition that
Great,
to that.
thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
And Heather, I don't know
Yes.
if anybody would take you up on it, but there is a really safe way to walk from the sports stable to Asti Park that I
Yes,
think a
there
lot of
is.
people don't really know. And so maybe in that handout ticket, if you could do
Great
a little,
idea.
do you want to walk there?
Yes,
So show people.
it cuts about 10 minutes off your trip, too.
Yes,
even
it's a
better.
lot safer. So,
Yes.
perfect.
Good tip. Thank you
Good
very
points.
much.
Okay, thank you. All right, next is the consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I so move.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Pennington, second by Trustee Dozell. And I think we can just do a regular vote on this. So all those in favor of the consent agenda? Passes unanimous. Thank you. All right, next, we're on to item number 13, public hearing and adoption of a resolution approving the final plat and final development plan for Ethan Allen, Lot 12, Block 1, filing number 6, Superior Marketplace, and the associated development improvement agreement. Public hearing's now open. We have proof of publication.
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay. Proof of publication's verified.
Thanks, Mayor.
Public hearing's open. Presentation.
It's nice to see Ethan Allen back. I mean, it's been a few years since the original FDP was approved, and I'm glad that they made a decision to go ahead and build on the lot that they have. And we'll start with the presentation from Stephen, and then follow up with the applicant, and then open it up for board questions and comments.
Good evening, Stephen Williams, town staff. Ethan Allen is requesting approval of both a final plat and a final development plan tonight for Lot 12, which is within the Filing 6 subdivision of the Superior Marketplace. Ethan Allen owns Lot 12 and is not proposing any changes to the property shape or size. The platting portion of their submittal is limited to vacating and dedicating public easements that are required to facilitate the development of their 11,971 square foot building. Collectively, these maps illustrate where Ethan Allen's site lies within the town of Superior. It's in the northwest portion of town. It's also directly across from Costco and directly south of Marshall Road. It's also just east of the 5th Avenue that runs north-south through the marketplace. As Matt mentioned, Ethan Allen has owned this property for over 10 years. They received a development approval for a larger retail building, closer to 18,000 square feet in size in 2007. That approval, however, has expired. The location of this property is relevant to certain exception requests as well as staff's application and development standards, which will be discussed as we get into the FDP portion of this review. The proposed plat, though, we'll kind of cover first. It's 3 sheets, the cover sheet on the top there, and then 2 plat sheets on the bottom left and on bottom right. Sheet 2 on the left illustrates the vacation request, and sheet 3 on the right illustrates the 5 proposed easements, which we'll walk through in detail here. So again, on the left is the vacation request, and on the right are the easements. The first easement vacation concerns an irrigation line that's shown here. The second vacation relates to a dry utility easement in which there's an electric line in that area. So those are the 2 vacations. And then getting through the proposed easements, the first one is kind of to reestablish the vacated easements in one collective easement along the western portion of the property. And it's a little deceiving to see the lot line here being in the center, but this actually abuts the Costco property. So instead of actually having a platted right-of-way, there's a 30-foot wide easement that allows people to travel on 5th Avenue. So this is effectively, the curb where the black line is, and then the easement just on the other side of it. The second proposed dedication concerns drainage easement in the northwest corner of the property. The third is for their dry utilities, so rather than run, so they're going to have electrical as well as irrigation in this line, but rather than run their gas and their electrical to their building through this easement, they're looping it down south through an existing 10-foot wide dry utility easement and connecting it in their southeast corner of their property to the northwest, or the northeast corner of their building, excuse me. The fourth is for fire access. So it's a 24-foot wide access easement that allows first responders to access their property. And the last concerns a water meter pit easement for their water meter. So that's involves the town. In addition to the 5 on-site easements, you may have noticed that particularly the southern one requires an additional easement that's off-site to connect to that 10-foot wide east-west utility easement. And then their storm sewer easement requires one across the same lot 3, to get to the existing detention facility, which is located in Tract F. So staff has required those as separate instruments. They were included with the submittal. They'll need to be recorded prior to the plat being recorded, and staff has requested that the plat actually be updated to include those reception numbers so that this plat application is whole and comprehensive. So that gets us through the plat portion. Ethan Allen's final development plan includes 14 plan sheets that detail the various improvements proposed, including site design, architecture, landscaping, utilities, etc. The concept site plan here in the bottom right helps illustrate how Ethan Allen will relate to the surrounding properties. Again, the Costco development is immediately to the west. They share that boundary line, and then they each have a portion of that 30-foot wide easement. Brixmor owns properties to the south and then to the immediate east, and then the town Tract F parcel is shown in green further to the east. Ethan Allen's context site plan also illustrates how it will connect to the surrounding development in terms of access. The property's primary vehicle access will remain off of 5th Avenue. There's no additional access points proposed on Marshall. So they come south through an easement, and then there's another 26-foot wide easement that gets into their proposed drive aisle. Additionally, it shows that where their parking is proposed. Just kind of in general, they have, and this was more detailed on the site plan, but they have 8 spaces to the east, 10 spaces to the south, and then 40. They have access to 40 off-site spaces that through a shared parking agreement. The dashed purple lines illustrate the ADA and pedestrian access that circulate through the area. One of the reasons that Ethan Allen has cited where it is to line up with this existing east-west sidewalk that's already existing to the east and is a main connector to the Costco site to the west. And then finally, the dashed red lines clarify where existing bike lanes are. There's no bike lanes through the marketplace at this time, so none were required. Ethan Allen, however, is providing two bicycle parking spaces and lock and whatever the fixtures are called that they lock to. I'm drawing a blank. Sorry. As detailed on the site plan, the proposed 11,900 square foot building on lot 12 is roughly 90 foot wide at its widest and 155 feet long at its longest, and it's oriented north-south. Lengthwise, it's situated to face south towards the primary parking areas. The siting of the building in relation to 5th Avenue, Marshall Road, and the access drive to the south are all important for the visibility. The site is visible in all directions. Ethan Allen's also sited close to closely align with that sidewalk I mentioned on the last slide. In addition to the 12,000 square foot building footprint, 31,000 square feet of hard surface, that's the drive aisles and parking area, are proposed, and 24,000 square feet of the site will be landscaped. A monument sign is proposed north of the building in this location, and there's a 4-foot retaining wall proposed between Ethan Allen, the building, and 5th Avenue to the west. The building elevation drawings here illustrate the height, materials, and colors of the proposed store. The south and west elevations are shown on this sheet, as is an example of their stone, and they have a materials board here today as well to help clarify the colors. The height of the principal parapet, the height here is 22.5 feet. The taller tower elements are 27 feet. Both of those heights are within the 35-foot requirement for the marketplace. PC added a condition to this plan, which clarifies that these returns need to be completed so that they actually don't just cut off here. You basically have a mirror image on this side so that the false wall isn't quite as apparent. So that was one of their two conditions that they added through the meeting last week. The dashed horizontal lines actually show the roof height, and then these dashed lines show that the placements of the rooftop electrical units and HVAC units will be screened completely. As illustrated, the primary building materials are stone, stucco, and glass. Black window trim, awning, signage, and exterior lights will accent the primary colors, which are a beige stucco and a red stone. And those two primary colors were chosen to blend in with the existing finishes within the marketplace. The material percentage table here at the bottom was included to kind of clarify where Ethan Allen is in relation to the PD requirements, and the PD classifies buildings within the marketplace as either major building envelopes or pad sites. So this was classified as a major building envelope back in 1998 and allowed up to 20,000 square feet of development. So Ethan Allen is required to meet these requirements, but staff has worked with them to kind of follow in a compromise between the pad site, which is actually emphasizes more of the four-sided architecture, which is appropriate for this location, and the major pad site, which kind of emphasizes the front of the building. So these table here illustrates that they're proposing 22% of stone on the front elevation, where 30% is required, as well as 19% glazing, where 25% is required. The table, however, also illustrates that the other facades exceed requirements for other material finishes, as well as stone and glazing. So these are those other elevations, as detailed in staff's memo. And what I just discussed, it is a major building envelope, so that's why these applications or these standards apply. But Ethan Allen is exceeding all of the pad site requirements, which only requires 20% of stone on the building. The pad site element doesn't actually include anything else, though, so it wouldn't include the glazing on each side or the awnings or any of those other details that Ethan Allen is showing. So staff, basically, because of the very balanced architecture on all four sides, is supportive of this type of variance request. So on each side, you get a major stone column, kind of central element, along with this bay window with the glass and the more of the architectural lighting. And then you have awnings on each side. Those awnings are detailed here. It's a little harder to see, but they do extend out and at an angle. And they're not like a hard, it's a metal awning where there's slats rather than just a solid surface. So it's more of an architectural element that's still light.
Is the bottom one the east?
The bottom one is the east, the top one's the north. The other thing that the application's clarifying is that the north is the back of the store, so there's less glazing proposed on that side. Staff's also supportive kind of this because it's 70 feet from Marshall Road, so having storefront windows on that road isn't terribly practical. You could have false windows, but they're not going to show anything because this is kind of the back of their store where they have offices as well as very minimal storage. So do you have any questions on that or any other comments, or do you want me to continue?
Good.
Okay. I had them prepare this illustration to kind of help clarify all the various utilities that are running through the site. And then this is also coordinated closely with the easements that were proposed and discussed through the plat. So the two existing streetlights on Fifth Avenue aren't being changed. One's located here and the other one's up near the intersection. So the electric line will still serve. That's being relocated to serve that site. The electric line also helps serve the irrigation, which they have a meter here. So essentially, this corner of the entrance into the marketplace was already landscaped, so it required irrigation. And then there's street trees along Marshall that require irrigation as well, and that's what this is for. The other lines, as I mentioned, are the dry utility lines that run along the eastern portion of the site and then route to the northwest. Parallel to that are the water and sanitary lines, as well as the fire line. And then they have their storm drain line that circulates their building. So the easements don't correspond exactly, but where they become public and where the dry utility easements, the utility providers actually service those all the way to the building. Conversely, the town does not service the line past the water meter pit. So that's where we only need an easement for a small section of that property. But that's how, as I mentioned before, that 10-foot wide east-west utility, they're tying into existing utilities over here rather than running them up through here where they have a lot more landscaping and other conflicts, including that retaining wall. This is the lighting plan. So this up in the top left-hand corner shows the 3 light fixtures that are proposed. Nothing's changing with those street lights on 5th. They have 2 parking lot lights that would be this fixture here. They're shown in this location. They have 2 sconces on each side of their kind of central columns, so next to the entrance here, and then kind of central on the building on each of the other facades. And then they have a wall pack, which didn't scan nearly as well or translate nearly as well, but it's just a downcast feature for additional kind of safety lighting. And those are shown here and here on the facade. The other thing about the elevations that I didn't get into before is that they all have a sign on the tower element. So similar to why staff is supportive or encouraging of the 4-sided architecture, staff's also supportive of them having 4 signs on each of their elevations. It's not something that's typically allowed within the PD. They're limited to 3 signs, but this, particularly in this location, seems appropriate. Other reasons for kind of some of their exception requests, and we'll get into that when we get into the landscaping sheet next, are just that, over the years we've heard a lot of concerns about the visibility of the tenants within the marketplace. So the tendency lately is to be more supportive of kind of less landscaping that will block those signs and then more signage in order to get that visibility or to ensure that visibility. But otherwise, the lighting requirements have been met. And then this is the landscape plan. So the landscape plan is really kind of focused on 3 sides, the side along 5th, the north, and then east of the parking, their on-site parking area. And the exceptions to this really kind of hinge on requiring the open sight lines that you see here and here. There's also a lot of utilities running in the north east location and the eastern boundary of this site. But one of the main drivers for them not meeting some of their requirements is the fact that they have a smaller building pad. And so they have 43% of their lot still to cover. And rather than cover it with a bunch of trees and shrubs, which we've seen issues with elsewhere in the marketplace, they're proposing a fescue sod along the perimeter in order to ensure that they have the visibility. So there are a few other exceptions are outlined here. They're just some like-for-like changes for different reasons. One, the first one for the trees is improved sight lines. There's some color changes. We asked for juniper shrubs not to be included. That's just the direction our parks department is going. They're harder to maintain. They've chosen a different feather grass than what is in the PD currently. And the other thing, I guess, to keep in mind is the PD's almost 20 years old at this point. So staff's also, given some latitude to more current design. And one of those changes actually is the black. So that's something that was actually prohibited. Orange and black were the two colors that were not allowed. I guess they were anti-Halloween or something when it came to be. But black is certainly one of those more contemporary colors that has been used in architecture, and Ethan Allen has emphasized that it's part of their branding. So you'll see that in their sign. You'll see that in the benches. The bike rack is the word I was looking for earlier, as well as the trash receptacle. So otherwise the finishes are the same. The size of the sign is actually 25 square feet of actual signage. The background is bigger. It's 70 feet, but either way you cut it, it's within the signage allowance for the town or for the marketplace. And then we worked with them to ensure that they're asking for an additional sign that wasn't contemplated along Marshall Monument sign. And this is a comparable scale to this sign, but it's actually identical to what is the 3 tenant signs that are existing along the Costco site. It just will only sign Ethan Allen versus having the multiple tenants that you see along the Costco parking area. But otherwise, the stone's the same to match, and this is the stone that will also match the proposed building. So staff is recommending approval. As I mentioned, Planning Commission heard this last week and added 2 conditions, B and C. The other conditions are the technical corrections, which is listed as A, and then kind of order of operation stuff, the easements that were required on Lot 3 needing to be recorded separately through separate instruments, and then done first and actually be reflected on the final plat, and then the final plat needs to be recorded prior to the FDP. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. We have representatives from both the design team and Ethan Allen here tonight as well for questions.
Okay, thanks, Stephen.
Sure.
Questions of Stephen before we go on to applicant presentation? Okay, gentlemen, welcome. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is John Ellis. I'm the regional manager for Ethan Allen, representing Doug, who you may have met prior. Unfortunately, his wife's been in hospital, so he was unable to make it tonight, so he asked if I would stand in for him. Why did we not move back in, when was it, 2007? Very straightforward. The economy was in as it was back then, and we were worried about the delays in terms of the development of this location, and it was always our intention to develop the site. But on my arrival with Ethan Allen in 2015, my previous life was involved in retail development and retail expansion. So to come and view the site here, it became very obvious very quickly that we needed to move forward on this site. Didn't move quite as quickly as I had hoped, but we're now on the way. we will be moving from our existing location in Westminster, which is very much overdue. And as I was saying to somebody earlier this evening, much of our existing client base is actually located within 5 to 10 minutes drive from this location. So we're actually locating ourselves very much close to our existing customers, which we've mentioned it to a few who are very happy. They don't enjoy the drive to Westminster, and they'll be much happier coming here to Superior. So really, that's the reason why we're finally coming here. It's the right move. It's right for our existing client base, and it's right for us as a business to grow in this location going forward. So we're very excited about coming to Superior. As I said, maybe a little late, but better late than never. So, do you have any questions for me?
Great to see you back. Thank you, and Stephen, really well done on the presentation, by the way. Question just about the downsizing, and if you could speak to the changes from roughly 14,000 square feet to about 10,000.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I did look at your annual report and know it's a trend that you're following across other stores. Talk a little bit about the downsizing. I don't mean that in a negative way, downsizing.
No, I understand.
The smaller sizing of the store, and kind of why you think that would be more successful.
Well, there's a couple of things in terms of the size of the unit. Moving forward across the U.S., when we're looking at markets, we're looking at between 5 to 6,500 square feet, primarily a design studio, but then with vignettes to support. That is standard now across the United States. However, Farouk Kathwari was very keen after we presented some of the economic factors in terms of the location, where our clients are currently living, looking at the next 10 to 15 years expansion in Colorado. He agreed to go with the 12,000 square feet store, which is now one of the largest that we will be building if we are moving away from the 5 to 6.5 footprint that we're now looking at. He believes that it's the right thing to do. It is out of line with what we are doing going forward, but this location, he's making an exception. The other thing that we're going to be doing, which is slightly different from every other Ethan Allen, and this will be a first, is that we're looking at localized merchandising. We're looking at what clients are looking for in the Colorado market, and we're actually going for localized merchandising. The ranges are currently being selected from our broader range to fit the needs of the style, the finishes, materials that we can extract from the information that we have from our other units in Colorado. So actually 75% of the range will be dedicated to what we believe is the Colorado market, and the remainder will be the remainder of the space will be dedicated to what we launched about a year ago, which is Quick Ship, which is to appeal to those who would like a faster turnaround. We are able to deliver from manufacture to the home within 30 days. We also have a warehouse. I don't know if you're familiar, but we have a warehouse in Aurora Tower Road, close to the airport. So we're getting quick ship through to our warehouse and quick ship through to the clients. So the 12,000 square feet, I think it'll be around 10,000 square feet, will be retail space, and that is perfect for the range presentation that we're looking at for the Colorado market. And we're very excited to see how trying to localize our range presentation will be effective, because it will be something that will be taken forward in the rest of the country. So it's a first step. I'm very excited about it because it's something I've been pushing since joining Ethan Allen. So yeah, that's part of the reason. A localized range presentation and 12,000 square feet is sufficient, but it is an exception to how we are building design centers in the U.S.
Great. Rita?
Thank you for coming here, because I'm one of those people that drive up to Westminster, and will be happy not to have to drive up there. I didn't realize you're relocating from the Westminster store on
Yes.
Wadsworth over to this one. That's great. What's the size of the Westminster one now?
The Westminster retail space is approximately the same as what we'll have here, but
Okay.
the range presentation will be completely different. Ethan Allen has operated, as I said earlier, very much, we call it proto. It's very much a standard layout in every single Ethan Allen across the country. We will be the first to do more of a Colorado feel based on what the clients in this market purchase.
Oh, that's great. And then, so the when are you going to complete it, or when do you think you're going to move in? I know you have a year to complete the public improvements.
I personally would like to be breaking ground next week, but I'm assured that's not possible.
Oh, sure it is.
But in discussion, I think we're looking at probably towards the summer. So June, July was what was mentioned to me.
For breaking ground or opening?
Opening.
Okay.
My name is Kevin Karras with MCG Architecture, Centennial, Colorado. I probably could answer that. That's more in line with the technical kind of questions. We have to do a set of construction documents. So once we've recorded the plat and the FDP, then we have to submit a set of drawings for permitting. So we're assuming that would be in January or February when we would receive a permit, just due to being able to schedule everything. And then I figure a 4 to 6 month construction time frame, so we're looking at June or July, keeping our fingers crossed for
Okay.
opening.
And the access road, does that exist now today? That's on
The roads, yes, we're not creating any new roads.
Yeah, so you'll just come in on the south side and then up around
Yes.
off of Fifth Avenue. Okay, that's
Yes.
great. And then the monument sign, would that be directly in front of the building? In front being the north, toward
Front
36.
being the north, yes, it would be out towards Marshall Road. It would be inside of the easement that's in place to keep things, I think, 23 feet off the road.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm glad you're back, and I love Ethan Allen, so thank you.
Okay, others? Sandy?
I don't know why this has taken so long, because this area has been devoid of high-quality furniture for a long time. I myself go all the way south to 435 South, way there, and every time I'm shaking my head going, why isn't this happening here? So delighted to see you come, and I'm delighted with the freshness of the black accents. I think that's just very with it, and I think it's going to look new and fresh. I think it's going to help update and make our Superior Marketplace look even more relevant. So I'm very supportive of allowing the black. I really appreciate, Stephen, the wise use of parking and limiting the new spaces and repurposing the existing spaces, because we don't need any more asphalt with stripes on it out there. We've got plenty of that. I've been on this board for a long time, and so I've been one of the ones that's had to vote for the extension. And this is a testimony to how that can actually work productively, because that last time you came around, I'm like, don't know here, so we gave you one more chance. I'm glad it's worked out. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, anything further? Questions of staff or applicant? Offer an opportunity for public comment. Anyone from the public like to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none. Anything further before I close the public hearing and we have discussion and then motion? Okay. Public hearing's closed. discussion? I think a few people have already kind of expressed opinions.
Well, I did want to compliment Stephen for really the creative decision-making here in terms of, 1998 original set of guidelines was 1998 or 1995 or whenever, and being able to be a bit flexible in some of that. I think that was absolutely necessary because times have changed. And but I would like to see the sign. What's the sign going to look like on the north side?
The north side, the monument sign?
The monument sign.
So it is reflected here.
There.
It's just, it's the same finishes as you have out there. It's just, it's going to have, it's actually to the exact scale where you have the kind of the tower element closest to Marshall, a stone cap here that's different than the stone that's on the building, and then it's going to have a black background just like their normal sign with white illuminated lettering.
But it's going to be compatible with our existing monument signs
it's going to be
that
exactly
have
the same other than the
multiple vendors.
Nope.
The
it's
multiple
Ethan
stores.
Allen's own site. There's no.
It's
other
just going to have
signage.
this, but
It's just
what
gonna
do
have
the
Ethan
other
Allen.
signs have on them?
They have two bands.
They have two
Yeah, yeah.
tenants.
Yep. Okay.
This will the difference. This will be on their site.
Okay.
The other ones are out near the highway
Right.
on the north side of Marshall Road. So
Right.
It's also illuminated. The other ones aren't. So it's much more current in that respect.
Kevin?
Stephen, I'm not sure I appreciate. Can you go to the first sheet? I'm not sure I appreciated that Brixmore had the property to the east.
So Brixmore has this property here,
Obviously,
as well as
right.
this property, Lot 3, which is kind of awkwardly shaped, but it
Yeah,
wraps around. So that's why this is the only lot that's affected by those two easements. One is in this corner, and the other one's at the top part of the property. But one of the things, and it was actually brought up at the Planning Commission, was how does this site fit in with the Northwest Area Plan? And it's not a standard we apply in the review, but it is something we talked to Ethan Allen about, and they willingly located their building as far west as possible and left as much developable area, and they even approached Brixmore about whether or not they were interested in a boundary line adjustment to make this site more developable, and at this time they weren't. So
could you draw the line about how a potential customer comes in and gets there?
So Fifth Avenue is, because this is all private, there's easements that allow you access.
Right.
And there's an access easement across their property that's reciprocal to get them in and out, and because they're on one side going out, and then they'd have to come in on the Costco property. Then there's also reciprocal easements throughout here to allow access on Center Drive as well as Fifth Avenue. And there's another easement, there's easements throughout this. So it's a little messier than it would be if it was platted roads, but that's just how the development was developed. So there's another 26-foot wide easement that gets you east-west through here, and then there's a parking agreement that allows them to park and have access to this area of parking, which is 40 spaces. And so they did the minimum necessary in order to meet the standard. But they also want, more proximate parking to their site. So all their 88 parking spaces are here, and then there's actually two existing to the south. So.
Okay. I appreciate the Planning Commission's attention to detail on this. I like their suggestion about wrapping those tower elements and.
Right. The other one that I actually didn't mention that you brought up, sorry, was they wanted a sidewalk easement along Fifth Avenue, so just east of the curb in order to allow us to put in a sidewalk at some point in the future if we want that connection, which doesn't currently exist. So.
Yeah, so
they were both good suggestions.
Yeah, just appreciate those suggestions and attention to detail, and thanks to staff for getting. We had a back-to-back Planning Commission and board meeting, and that was good to kind of get it all moved through efficiently. So yeah, we're happy to have you back, and looking forward to Ethan Allen opening and providing good product for the area. So, other comments?
I just think that Ethan Allen is exactly the type of brand that we want to attract to Superior. And so I really thank you for investing in our community. I think you're going to find a lot of people, love your brand and love your products. So I wish you tremendous success going on into the future. I really like the design. I think it's an elegant design. It's updated. It's modern, yet it still, fits with everything that we have here in town. And I'm really happy to hear that we're going to have a relatively quick construction cycle here, and we're going to be open in the summer. So I look forward to the ribbon cutting with and our Chamber of Commerce head is right in the back row, so she can schedule the ribbon cutting with you while you're here. So.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes.
And I don't have a lot to add other than to say my sofa and my chair are both Ethan Allen, and I've had them for a very, very long time. So I can't wait for you to open because it just might be time to get new furniture. So, but I really like the design of your store, and I thought it was classy, and it's exactly what we want in Superior. And so look forward to welcoming you to the community.
Well, to build on Sandy's comments, I've made some comments at my different presentations by saying your timing is excellent because we've got 1,400 potential homes going into downtown Superior, so they all need furniture, and all the homes in Rock Creek are getting about 20 years old, so they all need new furniture too. So your timing is perfect. So.
Yeah, if you create an Ethan Allen museum, I can contribute. Yeah, I certainly can. Dusty Rose comes to mind.
Okay, with that,
Are we ready to make a motion?
I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the Town of Superior Resolution Number R-51, Series 2017, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Superior approving the final plat and final development plan for Ethan Allen, Lot 12, Block 1, filing number 6, Superior Marketplace, case numbers FP 2017-03 and FDP 2017-03, and the associated development improvement agreement.
All right, motion by Trustee Dozal, second by Trustee Ryan. All those in favor? Passes unanimous. All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
You very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, anything further before we adjourn? Matt?
Wow.
No, man.
Nothing?
Nope, nothing.
8 o'clock. You sure we don't want to pile on a few more items here?
Thanks for having me. It was a really tough meeting for me to handle.
Yeah, appreciate everything, Jeff.
We had a couple, but I just had to push those to the 27th, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
The OSAC
right.
meeting went longer than this meeting.
I do have one question, though, that, not for this meeting, but maybe to put on, is we probably need to have another discussion about trucks and semis and things like that. Do we? Or what do you think we should do about that? I think we should have another, do we want that at a work session or at a meeting? Because we're getting more
I think it, yeah, I think there's,
questions.
I think it does merit further discussion, so maybe a work session or maybe our first retreat, which is probably not too far.
I actually think that the board direction on this is pretty clear. I'd like to see a proposal from staff personally. I don't feel like we need to spend another hour talking about how we don't want trucks on the street. I'd like to hear from staff about what we could do to keep the trucks off the street. I think there's no more discussion necessary, in my view. I want to see a proposal, and I want to vote.
Yeah.
Well,
I
we
mean, I would
already
agree.
determined-
There are other cities that have dealt with this issue.
Yeah.
And I would like to see us come up with some draft language because Rock Creek Circle is currently the parking lot for commercial trailers and things with dead tags. And I think we've got to really put the ordinance in place and give ourselves some teeth.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and that's the step we didn't take in our last discussion. We said what we currently have in place that we can do, but we didn't take the next step, which is what might be proposals for changes
New ordinances.
to ordinances.
Yes. Yes. Okay, see, Jeff, you did have something to do.
I got it. Kendra mentioned this to me, but I'll make sure she has the message. I'll get what you need.
Okay. Anything further? All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.